we focus on helping you claim what's rightfully yours, your health and your freedom. We explore the three main areas of health: the physical realm, the biochemical realm, and the mental and emotional realm. We also explore all the areas of lifestyle we can find that will help you live more abundantly, regardless of where you're starting. And remember, in life, you'll either make excuses or create results. You choose. I'm your host, Dr. Josh Hant, and I'm glad to be with you here today. Make sure to head on down to the show notes and click on the link to join our tribe of human-powered life heroes, where we'll update you on new shows, events, product launches, and so much more. Now, it's time to enjoy the show. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Human Powered Life Podcast. We have an amazing guest today. He has been on Lifestyle Locker Radio maybe a year plus back. This gentleman is beyond amazing. I feel like I had a knock on the door from God saying you need to have him back on. We'll get into that in a minute. And this is Udo Erasmus. I want to thank you first off for showing up. So everybody, this is Udo.
On Valentine's Day.
Exactly. I have a date with Udo right now. Here we go.
Hey, there you go.
So I always want to read something to you, Udo, real quick, that you, when we're filling out the online form that we send out to our guests, and I love this, and I just wanted to share this with our audience. It says, this is from Udo, everyone. It says, I'm obsessed with and loved exploring life, love, peace, inspiration, stillness, health, nature, and purpose. Being born in a war, and he'll tell you which war that is. Being born in a war got me started early on how bad it can get and focus on how we can make it better. So Udo, I would love for you to just bring everybody, within a few minutes here, bring everybody back to the war that you were in. Just I want people to feel, through their ears, what you've been through and then the power of what you're doing now.
Right. Okay. So my parents were from Latvia, German, Swedish background, but living in Latvia and Estonia. My mother was born in Estonia. And in 1938, Hitler and Stalin made a non-aggression pact. And as part of that pact, they said we're not going to fight each other. Of course, they broke that later, but that's a whole other story. Mm-hmm. And as part of the pact, Latvia went to the Soviet Union, and part of Poland went to Germany. And there was nobody from Latvia or Poland at the meeting. So they just took it. Mm. And my father had already gone through the Bolshevik Revolution, and he loved the Russians as people, and he hated communism because they took everything away from everybody, right? They just disowned everybody.
Yep.
And so because he had German background, he thought getting out of Latvia that was going to communism and into Poland was the better choice. And that was in 1938, before all of the craziness started. And so I was born on a stolen farm. The farmer whose farm it was that was given to my father became my father's farmhand. And so there was some tension there. And finally, my dad just said to him, listen, the whole thing is crazy. Let's run the farm the way a farm needs to be run, together. And then at the end of it, they became friends. And then when the communists started heading into, they chased us into Poland, and then they helped us get out.
Yeah,
So I was born on a stolen farm in the middle of the war. And then when we headed out, the communists were chasing us in tanks and trucks. We were in horse-drawn hay wagons on dirt roads with no military presence. Women with young children trying to get out of the communisms in their tanks and trucks. And the Allies, the good guys, right, were using refugees as target practice, and they were shooting at us from planes.
That's insane. So you have communists from one side, you have the fascists, the Nazis on the other side, and then we have the so-called people that we want to be helpful to us, or
being just as fascist as anybody.
Yeah, which was crazy.
And then my mother decided the roads weren't safe because there were dead horses and
mm,
dead people in the ditches. So she got off the road and walked through the fields in the winter in snow, and had to leave 4 of the 6 kids in her charge behind because she only had 2 hands.
mm,
And I got left behind. I ended up in an orphanage. They took me back to Berlin. Berlin was in uproar. It was crazy. Eventually, my mother's sister found out what happened, and she then went and found us and reunited us with the family. But I
oh,
just
wow.
remember like not feeling safe. And I didn't feel safe until I was probably 30 years old. Not
Wow.
feeling safe. And it always like and anxiety and chaos, didn't know what I could trust.
Mm,
And so I got into studying science because in science you learn how things work. And when you know how things work, they become predictable.
mm,
So that was one of the reasons I got into science. But when I was 6 years old, we were in Germany, and people were arguing vehemently about really stupid things. At least they seemed stupid to me as a 6 year old.
yeah.
And it always made me uneasy. And I was listening to yet another argument like that. And this thought occurred to me, man, there must be a way that human beings can live together in harmony. And this cocky voice from a little kid who doesn't know how complicated the world is, I'm going to find out how. And
Mm,
that's what drove all my searches, like in science to find out how things work, then in biosciences how creatures work, then in psychology how thinking works, then a year of medicine to learn about health, but they only teach about disease. I ended up going back into biochemistry and genetics, and and then I went out and started learning about blue collar jobs. I took every collar job. I wanted to know what it felt like to be in the shoes of the people who were doing those jobs. I wasn't looking for, I want to be a plumber or I want to be a carpenter or, I just wanted to know what it feels like. I wanted the experience of it.
mm,
And I've always been like more of an experiential learner, more than let me just read and memorize something. No, let me find out how it works. So I would always be doing experiment and
mm.
sometimes really silly ones because of my limited childhood understanding of things. But I was always trying stuff out. How does it work? You bang a Christmas ball and an apple together. Which one's stronger?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
the little Christmas ball broke because I didn't know it was thin and hollow, right?
Yeah.
And then, of course, people laughed at me because I was always getting into stuff like that.
Yeah.
So,
That's really cool. And
yeah,
I love that you said you talk about predictable, not even results, but you said
yeah.
things being predictable. And I love I use those lines in practice,
Hmm.
seeing patients as a chiropractor, using the tools that we have and the science that's out there and human life, right? Understanding how the human body works. And I always talk to patients when we give them their care plans. I say, I love predictable results.
Hmm.
And I'm only going to give you things or do things with you that we can recreate positive for you.
Right.
And I think obviously you've done that in your lifetime. And for those of you who haven't connected the dots yet, he hasn't said it, but this is the guy you've heard of Udo's oil, right? Like all of you have been to a health food store and seen the glass jar, right? All of you. So
Glass
this is
bottle.
who
Yeah.
we're talking to right now.
Yeah.
He's very humble, and I want to pull him out a little bit out of that humbleness because he has made a huge impact on probably tens of millions, if not more, people's lives and the world. I mean, would you say so?
A few.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a few.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'll take credit for like designing the method for making oils with health in mind and bringing omega 3s, plant-based, undamaged back, and then balancing them with omega 6s so that you get all the good stuff and none of the bad stuff. So I'll get credit for producing it. But see, I can't take credit for anybody who's using the oil
Of
because
course.
what gives them the good results is that they actually are using the oil,
Yeah, the action steps, of
right?
course.
And I can't
Of
take
course.
credit for that,
No.
right?
No, so I
So,
want to bring
so,
you.
and
Go ahead.
I like it when people take credit for what they actually do because it's a
Mhm.
choice,
Yes.
right? And they decide, okay, I'm going to take a shot at it. Okay, I'm going to do this. Okay, I'll see for myself
Mhm.
what will happen. So it takes faith, and then that has to lead to knowledge,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And so I applaud people when they try things and to find out for themselves, because we need to do that in a lot of different ways these days,
Yeah.
because we're being, we're the blind are being led by the blind, and we're heading in the direction of a pretty big cliff.
Yeah. I
And
agree. I agree
and I think
100%.
finding our power back, our empowerment, our ability to make decisions by our own experience from doing our own questioning and testing.
Mhm.
I think it's
Yeah.
huge. It's one of the biggest things that needs to
Yeah.
happen in the human race globally.
Yeah. Not being a sheep to a shepherd, right? Or
Yeah,
a lamb to a shepherd
yeah,
type of thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Or
Yeah.
or a lamb to a wolf.
Yeah. Yeah. That's probably a little more true these days, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
so I want to bring everybody into this. So we've heard about these oils. I want to have Udo just describe a little bit about, because many of you that have listened to any kind of health podcast, if they've dealt with nutrition, talk about omega 3s and omega 6s, and we've spoken about it as well. And we've all heard about seed oils being bad. And I want to have Udo dive into this, because his primary source of oil is flax seed, right? But then there's all these other seeds that are out there. So I want him to, maybe twist your brain a little bit in a good way to wring
Yeah,
out some of the garbage, so he can
yeah.
fill it
So
with some true honesty on how and why it's not necessarily the seed oil itself.
yeah. So there's there it comes in waves. We figured it out like 40 years ago when we started working with oils, and the reason why we began to make oils with health in mind and developed the machinery for doing that
Mm.
is because we found out, or I found out, because I was working by myself at that time. I got poisoned by pesticides. I was trying to figure out how to heal myself because the doctor said we don't have anything for pesticide poisonings. I ended up looking at oils because they were so contradictory. On the one hand, they said omega 6 is essential. That means you have to have it and you can't live without it, and you die if you don't get enough long enough. And the next study I read said omega 6s give you cancer and kill you. And it just drove me nuts.
Mm.
I was like,
Yeah.
how can that be? I have to have it to be healthy, and then it kills me. It's like, ah, there must be something else going on. And it was that contradiction that made me look deeper. Why is it that omega 6s kill you when they're essential? Well, there must be something else going on, and what is going on is processing. And then I got into processing. So these oils are treated first with sodium hydroxide, then with phosphoric acid, very corrosive base and acid. Then they're bleached. Then in the process, all of the antioxidants that are spark control for the fire of life are removed. And about 0.5% to 1% of the molecules are damaged to something that never existed in nature, many of which are super toxic. And if you figure out in a tablespoon, because like 1%, you say, oh, okay, it's 1%, not a big deal. But if you figure out how many molecules are damaged, if you have 1 tablespoon of an oil that is 1% damaged by the processing, and I think we did that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got an answer. And most people, when they guess how many molecules are in that tablespoon when it's 1% damaged, they are 1,000,000,000 to 1,000,000,000,000 times too low in their estimate of how many damaged molecules they're stuffing in their mouths. 60 quintillion damaged molecules, more than 1,000,000 damaged molecules for every one of the body's 60 trillion cells. You do that for 30 years. You take 2 to 4 tablespoons. You also use those oils for frying, so you damage them by light, oxygen, and heat all at the same time, some more. And after 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, you get cancer. Actually, you get inflammation first. And cancer is one of the results of inflammation. And then you say, I don't know why I'm sick. I always ate good. Because you didn't know that the oils were damaged. So what people are now doing is they're people who haven't done their homework and looked into it and provided a better alternative. They're just seeing, oh yeah, seed oils are bad because the research is all done on damaged seed oils. And the research blames seed oils for problems. And nobody in the research points out that these oils that they're using are oils that have been damaged by industrial processing before they even go into the plastic bottle, before they go on the shelf where you buy them and then stick them in your frying pan. Oh, and by the way, they're made out of non-organic seeds and they have pesticides in them, right? And
Yeah.
so what I'm saying these days when people talk about that, these guys haven't done their homework. They're
Yeah.
complaining, but they've only looked at the surface and they haven't understood, and they're misleading you to blame oils for what needs to be blamed on destructive processing. Because if those oils are not destructively processed or destructively used, they're essential for your health, both omega-3 and omega-6.
Yeah.
And I, so I'm out there banging the bushes again to try and get people to understand. Don't blame oils for what should be blamed on industrial and cooking damage.
Yeah. That and this everyone, this is really powerful. So, everybody's like throwing the word science and research and science over the past years, like it's been in our faces more than ever. And when you're
Yeah,
doing research and or science
yeah,
on faulty,
yeah.
in
And
your
if you
case,
say,
oils,
and if you
right?
say, if you say I am the science and you don't show a single study,
Yeah.
then maybe you're science that's all made up in your head.
Yeah. So we're the research in the oil that we're talking about is like he said is surface based. So they're using if we if we give garbage oil to a researcher, the researcher is going to do what they're trained to do.
Yeah.
Right. The researcher can go, wow, this oil is really bad. It's very unhealthy. It causes inflammation. And long term, it may cause cancer, heart disease, diabetes, all of these things. But they're just
And
doing their job because they're giving garbage to start.
right, and they have a disadvantage that many of their study grants
Mm,
come from the industry that damages oils for a living.
yeah.
And they can't, if they say, oh, by the way, I'm using for this study, I'm using an oil that these guys who give me the grant damaged because they wanted a long shelf life. Well,
Mm,
guess where his grant's going to go?
yeah,
Bye bye.
exactly.
His grant
Yeah.
goes bye bye. So they're in a position where they're between a rock and a hard place in terms of telling the truth. And
Yeah.
so they talk about the oils and they show the studies and they show that damage is done by these oils, and they don't make that one little point
Yeah.
that it's actually the damage done by processing
Yeah.
that or the damage done by frying that
Yeah.
causes the
Yeah.
problems.
And I want to connect one more dot with everyone how powerful good oils can be in a comparison to something that is water soluble like vitamin C. Vitamin C can get in and out of your system fairly quickly. You take too much, it disrupts your gut, everything gets cleaned out. It's out of your system for the most part. Not everything, for the most part. Oils stick with you. They don't just go in
Mm-hmm.
and out of your body. So your body ends up using these things in the cellular membranes. It ends up using these things in every piece of your life,
Oh God, they have so many. They
right?
have so many important functions,
Yeah.
and the body turns them into a whole bunch more hormones and
Yeah.
and antioxidants and anti-inflammatories and immune enhancing molecules all
Mhm.
over the body in every cell in your body.
Yeah. And so when we putting bad oils in and expecting a positive result, even if
Mm-hmm.
it's an omega-3 that's still processed in a poor way, you're
Yeah,
not doing yourself any good.
yeah.
Whether it's a
Then
fish
yeah, then you
oil
can
or a
take some.
flax oil, right?
Yeah,
Doesn't make a
by
difference.
damaging it, you can take omega-3s, which are essential to health, and turn them into toxic molecules in your own body.
Yeah.
That's why oils need to be made with health in mind. They're the most sensitive of all of our nutrients. They need
Yep.
the most care, and we give them the least care.
Hmm.
We throw them in the frying pan.
Yep.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. And
The
also
most.
I know everybody here has listened to our interview about the Gerson therapy about cancer, and they talk about using in that interview, we spoke about using essential oils, using a flax oil, right?
Mhm.
And there's a reason they get results. And I want Udo to go back because all of you have probably at least Googled Max Gerson, who we know passed many, many, many years ago.
Hmm.
But Udo has had some connection with the family way back when. So just share a little, bit.
Yeah.
I'd love you to
Well,
share this.
yeah, the first oil I developed when we made the method for making oils with health in mind was flaxseed oil. And flaxseed oil used to be called linseed oil.
Mm-hmm.
But linseed oil was treated with sodium hydroxide, phosphoric acid, bleached, and heated to frying temperature. And at the time, Max Gerson did not allow any oils in the diet except for linseed oil because he got some results, and it was the omega-3s that were responsible for it. And when we started making flaxseed oil, we met Charlotte Gerson, who took over the Gerson therapy, and introduced her to flaxseed oil made with health in mind. And they then switched out the linseed oil, which was highly processed, for our flax oil made with health in mind. And Norman Fritz, who worked with who I spent most of my conversations with, told us that then when they began to use flaxseed oil instead of linseed oil, the results of the Gerson therapy improved.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this was in like way back in, I think it's 1988, 1980, I think it was 1988 that we met them.
Okay. Yeah. So
1988.
yeah. So everybody, the science has been out there. The good stuff does good things to the body, as you've heard.
Yeah.
People healing from terminal cancers or terminal diseases by using food, right? And
Yeah.
doing positive things to their
Yeah.
body. So I ultimately want all of you to take the time to, head over to udoschoice.com, head over to the Udo. We'll have the links in the show notes, but dive a little deeper, or you can go find the show on Lifestyle Locker. I can't give you the number off the top of my head, but go search that as well, because we dive a lot into the processing of the oils and all the different parts of the oil and the health factors. But Udo's been really on a mission, I think, probably since you said like 6 years old at this point, for a few years, just a few, on making humanity better. I know that sounds cheesy, but it's so powerful. Like he's transformed people's lives. He more than likely, with his products and his message that's gotten out there to so many people and people that are utilizing his tools, people are getting healthier, potentially healing from these chronic conditions, transforming their lives, saving a grandparent, saving a child, and people didn't even realize it. So Udo, what's the new mission? I know this, your other mission is not going away. Like the oils that's a huge piece of life
Yeah.
for you. But what's this focus, this life focus that you've been
Yeah.
talking about?
Well, it came out of a conversation with my mother. When I started writing about fats, I didn't have a job. I'd been poisoned, and I wanted to write a book on fats. I thought people could learn from it. And with what I was learning about fats, I was shocked because it wasn't out in the, people didn't know. So I thought there must be people who can benefit from this. So she asked me to move her dahlia bulbs. And I said to her, Mom, I don't see it as the purpose of my life to move your dahlia bulbs. And I thought she'd be angry. But she wasn't. She said, what do you see as the purpose of your life? And I had thought about it like quite a bit, and I had never figured it out. But when she asked me the question, it just came out of me. I said, well, I'm going to make sense of how fats affect health. And I was already on that mission. And then I'm going to turn health into a teachable field, because we don't have a teachable field of health. That's what I went into medicine to try and learn, but they only teach about disease.
Yep.
So don't you think that we should have a coherent understanding or a model of health that you can use to understand how people departed from them, and then turn them in the direction of health, give them a push and watch them get better? But we have to have that model in order to do that. So, and we haven't done that for 200,000 years. So it's about time. Yep. And then that was the second thing. I'm going to turn health into a teachable field. And then third, I'm going to turn human nature into a teachable field. Why? Because the reason why we're so stupid and so ignorant and so destructive is because we're not in touch with the deepest, most powerful, most peaceful, most loving, most inspired part of our own nature. And we don't have a model for human nature, so there's nobody teaching human nature. I mean, if you think about it, we know more about our computers and our iPhones than we know about ourselves. We know more about our neighbors than we know about ourselves, right? It's all gossip, right? And what does it take to become fully present in all of your being and your surroundings, and not just tripping in your head about whatever anybody piles in there? Right. So that's my grand opus. I'm 80, so I'll be 81 in May. And this is a piece of these two pieces of work. There's a lot of similars between health and human nature, because health was created by life in nature. And so health results from living in line with nature and our nature. And there's levels of different levels. It's not just physical, it's not just physical and mental, but there's awareness, which is the foundation. That's where peace lives. And that peace is not just in our foundation. That's our access point, but that peace is everywhere in the universe. Everything. All when galaxies collide, they collide in perfect peace. Peace is the container for the entire universe, for our existence as well. So peace is the foundation. Around that is unconditional love.
Hey, we're giving you a short break here where you can head down to the show notes or lifestylelocker.com and join our tribe of human-powered life heroes. You'll be the first to know about new shows, events, product launches, affiliate specials, and more. And now, back to the show.
The energy that keeps us alive is a fraction of solar energy that's filtered through 93 million miles of space, then filtered through the atmosphere, then filtered through green plants. And the energy, that fraction of energy in plants excites electrons that become activated, that then combine to form bonds between atoms that make molecules, and that energy is stored in those bonds. And when we eat those molecules as food and break them down in our cells, those bonds get broken, and the solar energy that is stored in them is released. And that's what we live on. Now, we talk about the molecules that's like ATP that store that energy, but we never get in touch with that energy. When I studied biology, which means the study of life, and life is energy, we didn't study the life part. We studied form and function. And when our creatures were alive that we studied, by the time we were done, they were dead. And we never had a beaker full of life, liquid and shining. That's what I expected I would learn in biology. And I was so excited that I'd be learning about that, but we never got that.
Yeah.
Right. And so I said to my lab partner, we should study ourselves, because we have form and function together here, and life, and we don't have to kill ourselves to get to know ourselves. We just have to become present in the space that we occupy. So that energy is a flow of empowering, unconditional love. Life loves your body unconditionally, 24/7, 365, lifelong. Right? And if you go subjective on that energy, so you got solar energy becomes life energy. Now, if you bring your awareness, your focus back inside into that space where that energy is in your body, which is where your focus was before you were born, in your mother's womb. I call it the Buddha tank. And I say, we spent the first 9 months in deep meditation because there was no place to go and nothing to do, and everything was taken care of and it was safe. Right? Yeah. So when we go subjective on that energy, that is the energy, that is the master energy. That is the master. The people we call the masters, Buddha, Jesus, Krishna, Ram, Lao Tzu, there's a bunch of them, Huang Po, there's a bunch of them. The people we call the masters had a message to humanity. I am come not to judge, but to love. That's the message. And that's the message of life to your body too. Mm. And I had that message at a time when the religious people treated me really, really, really badly, when I was really trying to understand what was the message of the masters. I actually had an experience where a being made of light, and I don't believe in this kind of stuff, so it was like a big surprise, right? But I was really desperate because they judged me so harshly, and I was like, oh, I was so desperate, and I was so wanted to know. And you know, sometimes desperation makes us really sincere. Mm-hmm. You know, so I had a weekend like that. Went to nature to clear my head, and in the middle of the night, there was this being made of light, embodying that message. Never said anything, didn't have a label on it, who was this? But the message was, I am come not to judge, but to love. And instantly, my desperation was gone, my confusion was gone. I have never had a question since then, what was the essential message of the masters? And then I also realized, oh, by the way, that's also the message of life, that energy, to the body, right? Weighs nothing, runs everything, and there is the master, right? The essence of the master is the life energy in every human being on this planet. The rich people, the poor people, the black people, the white people, the males, the females, the young, the old, every culture, every religion, every nation, 8 billion people, all have the master running their life. There's also, by the way, a leader that you can trust. Life is the leader that you can trust. You always have it with you, and it gives you good advice about living in the trench that you're living in. Mm-hmm. Right? Rather than somebody 3,000 miles away that makes laws, and a bunch of people who make laws about crazy things, and then and the masters only had one law. That was love, right? Love self, love God, love others, just love. Because your essential nature is that energy, and that energy is unconditional love. Your essential nature is unconditional love. Now, if we knew that, do you think we would have had a Second World War? Do you think we would have had a communist revolution? Do you think we'd have all the craziness that goes on between the Republicans and the Democrats? I don't think so. It's about bloody time we understood that the master is the life within every human being, and that every human being deserves to be treated the way the master deserves to be treated, with love, with care, with kindness. Mm-hmm. And because it's in us and is our nature, there's no reason why we can't do this globally, worldwide. But it means we have to sit down sometimes and shut up, and get out of doing and get into stillness. And in that stillness, feel. What does it feel like? How still can you become? How deep can you go into that stillness? How long can you be there? And how quietly and lightly can you breathe, and slowly can you breathe while you're there? And what do you experience? What do you feel? You can see light, you can hear sound, you can feel love, you can feel peace. You are 100% fulfilled. You are whole. What you tap into when you do that never gets sick and never dies. You feel loved. And when you feel that way, do you think you might live into the world a little different than you do when you think everybody's your enemy, or everybody's out to get you, or you're afraid that there's too much danger around, or you're anxious? Yeah, and in that place, there's no anxiety, and there's no depression. There's just wonder. Oh my God, how incredible it is that dust, air, water, and sunshine can get all mixed up and have the human experience. And what all that is, dancing and singing and, carrying water, chopping wood and carrying water, you know,
Yeah.
having sex, raising children, you know, horsing around, cracking jokes, you know, this is like incredible. It's incredible. Why aren't we in awe of what this is and what everyone else is also
Yeah.
equally?
Yeah. I mean, what I'm taking out of this is, there is an organizing intelligence in everything and every one of us. Right? We don't have to think about it. It's there, whether the
Yeah,
intelligence is
it's and
God
it's
or
always
whatever it may be.
and it's always been there, and
Uh-huh.
it's the power, and it's the energy, and it's the CEO, and it's the president of my life, and it is the master of my
Mhm.
body, right? And it is everywhere present in my body. It is all powerful in my body, and it knows everything about how to run a body of 60 trillion cells in
Yep.
harmony so that this body can do coherent things.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and just to connect one other dot that I'm pulling just some of the thoughts that are coming out of your mouth into my brain,
Yeah.
and connecting some of my life experience. And I've spoken about this in other shows, but you also said without saying it's first about being
Yeah. Well, you know,
versus doing.
yeah. It's one of my, it's a joke that I play on people sometimes. We're called human beings. We've become human doings. Everything's about do, 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 do. You know,
Yep.
so I say to them, hey, whose body is that? I point at them, say, whose body is that? And they say, my body. That's my body, right? I mean, unless they're really cosmically tripping, then they do other things. But most people say, well, that's my body. You know what you just did? You just told me that you're not the body. You just told me that the body is your property, right? This is
Yeah.
my body. Yeah. So I'm not the body. Well, then who the hell am I? If I'm not the body, then who? We live as though we were the body, right? Because you eat for the body, and you go to the bathroom for the body, and you sleep for the body, and you put on clothes for the body, and you get a job to make money to get all the stuff you need for the body. So we live like we were the body, but we are not the body. We're the owner. Who's the
Hmm.
owner? Life. So actually, we are not the body. We are life. Your individual essence is life energy. That solar fraction, that life energy, that unconditional love, that is your individual essence. If it's unconditional love and we're all want more love, can't we just like sit still and tune into the unconditional love, the soulmate that is our soul,
Hmm.
to get to know and to experience and to feel and to enjoy and then to bring to expression through inspiration that unconditional love? Wow. And then what? One of the things I learned from COVID, I'm not going into pro or anti vaccine, I'm not going there. But one of the things that happened is during the lockdowns, the dirty air in China became clean. The water in the canals in Venice became clean, and the dolphins came back to the canals. The water in my bay outside of my place became clean. The, the plants were more colorful. The air was cleaner, right? You could see the stars at night, right? So when people say, oh, we got to do this thing about global warming and climate change, you know what we found out during the lockdown? If you want to fix the climate, do less. Do less. Because when we did less, it cleaned itself up. And there are people who say, oh, we got to spray this and we got to do that. And we got these cockabunga big money ideas. And nothing comes out of it. Nothing good comes out of it. The only thing I would say we should probably pay attention to, plant trees, because we used to have 10 trillion of them, and now we got 2.5. So we've knocked down 3/4 of the tree on the planet. We should all become tree planters. We should get rid of the rules that says you can't plant trees here and there and there and there. Plant trees, and the second is water management. There are places where we have too much water, and there are places where we don't have enough. In 1910, they had actually built a grid of water management throughout North America, so there wouldn't be any more dust bowls or there wouldn't be any more desert problems. And then they got sidetracked by fossil fuels, and it never got put in place. And the other thing is that if you slow down the rate at which water that falls on land returns to the ocean, then you take care of all of the growth issues and the desertification issues. I'm not talking about dessert, I'm talking about deserts, right? Then you do that. Slow down, whatever that takes. Some people do that there's a creek that comes down a hill, and what they do is they put these herringbone like little walls up, so the water goes and it slows way down. And if you slow it down and it doesn't just run off, then it soaks into the ground and you build up the water tables again. And when you build up the water tables again, the roots can get to the water, and then things that grow will grow better. And we need the plants to grow. They make our oxygen, they make our minerals available to us, they manufacture our vitamins, they manufacture our nutrients, they manufacture our amino acids and fatty acids, right? And so we are dependent on plants for our life. And we need to go from being greedy killers to grateful gardeners. That's the change we need to make in our orientation to how we live on this planet.
Yeah. There's a saying that the gentleman that developed chiropractic named B.J. Palmer, he said this. He said, nature needs no help, just no interference.
Good one. I had never heard that. That's beautiful.
Yeah. So, and this is probably the early 1900s, he's coming up with this, before any craziness, that type of craziness that we're living in now.
Yeah, I was going to say craziness was not invented in the 20th century.
Yeah.
The Roman Empire was already corrupt.
Of course. But like the way we're dealing in the modern version of it.
Yeah.
So, we spoke about human beings, human doings. And I also want to say that another great example you may use, and I use it in my practice, I can't say every day, but very frequently when we talk about the body being, organized very well, like via intelligence, you cut your finger, what does a healing? The example I love to use if I speak on a stage or if I do a virtual talk is, what is the biggest difference between a live person and a dead person? If we have a cadaver and a human being laying right next to each other, all their fluids, all of the physical is there. What's that difference?
Only the energy, only the solar energy,
right? The spark, that source, right?
Yeah.
Life. So
and it weighs nothing.
Great connector. Yeah. So I think what I've heard in the past from other speakers and people that are smarter than me, because I like to learn a lot from people that are smarter than me. It elevates me a bunch. They said, I think when they weighed a cadaver right like before and right when the person passed, it was something like grams of difference in weight.
They said 27 grams difference. Okay. But then when they back and did it again, they actually made a mistake, because that's 27 grams was just water that evaporated off the cadaver.
Okay.
So when they fix it, it weighs nothing. Light weighs nothing.
Yeah.
Light is so light that it can pull you up to all the way to the top of your head, when the material should be in the ground, right? But there's water in your head that's been pulled up by life. You're basically a column of water with the skin around it, raised up by life, raised up by energy, by solar energy. You're a solar energy gadget, right?
Very cool.
And then the beginning of the corruption, wasn't the Roman Empire. The beginning of the corruption of every human being begins at the moment of birth, when the focus begins to shift from inside present, outside absent, to going out through the senses to learn how to survive in the world, and in that process gets disconnected from the inside where all of this good stuff is experienced.
Mm.
So we experienced it before birth, then we basically gained the world and lost our soul, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what we need to do is we need to deliberately bring our focus back inside to its origin, because that's where our wholeness and our fulfillment and everything we're deep down looking for, we already have built into us. But we don't know that if our focus isn't where it is. When our focus is somewhere else, then we don't experience. It's like I have $1 million in my right pocket, but I go to the welfare guys, I have no money because the only place where I look for money is my left pocket, and there's no money in my left pocket, right? So if you want the goods, you got to go where the goods live, right? You got to bring your focus to where that is. And the ache that we have in our heart, like heartache, that's the call to come home. That's all it is. It's triggered by all kinds of things in the world that end. Somebody dies, somebody dumps you or something, right? Or somebody betrays you, or your dog runs away, or something that you've put love into and hope to get fulfillment from ends. And then there you're left with you. And basically it's a reminder of your disconnection from yourself. So instead of like running from it and trying to distract yourself, what the wise ones say is sit with it, feel it, don't judge it, just be with it, experience it, accept it, acknowledge it. And if you sit with that and you just go a hair's breadth deeper than that in behind it, you're reconnected to what you're looking for out there in here. Because it's never going to be out there. It's always going to be in here. So it's a coming home to ourselves that is the first step to changing the world into a place that works for everybody.
Well, everyone, hopefully your minds, the gears are going right now.
Yeah.
Warp speed, absorbing all of this. You're probably gonna have to do a little rewinding and listening again, at least in the last 20 minutes or so. This is really deep stuff, really powerful stuff. And Udo is not just some new age guru that's just shown up.
I'm a brother.
He's seen the hells of what the planet and the people, what the people brought to the planet. He's been through it.
Yeah,
and he's also seen the light.
I say to people, I wouldn't recommend that anybody go through a war, but it was a gift. It didn't feel like a gift when I was in it, but it was a gift because it showed me very early what happens when you don't cultivate peace and love and inspiration in times when you can, because then you're going to drift, and drift is always downhill, and anything that drifts downhill will eventually end up in a gutter. And that's what we're doing because we're not making what is most important.
Yeah.
Right? So I got my nose rubbed in that very early. So I began to ask questions about what is it? And I would look at everything that was wrong and I said, why? It always comes back to because we got disconnected from ourselves. We didn't feel that good. We were discontent, and then we did stupid things.
Yeah.
And then stupid actions have stupid consequences. And the idea that you have freedom without consequences is another pipe dream, right? All actions have consequences. Everybody wants to be free, but not deal with the consequences. Guess what? We've been doing that for so long. We got a lot of consequences coming. And we need to first reconnect. The wholeness is there in the midst of all the craziness. The wholeness lives within you. And from that wholeness, you can make the world whole, because that will be your expression when you have done your homework.
Exactly. And I'll just finish with this, everyone. We've all experienced this podcast. I'm like soaking it in as well. And one thing that I realized as he's talking about war and in the past, and thinking about World War II for me as a Jewish guy, and the horrendous things that happened is just like I get like feel like I get like a dagger in the heart when I think about it. And what I've realized in almost all of these types of wars is, at least in my perception, maybe not anybody else's, is that people want too much power, especially like we'll think of a Hitler.
Yeah.
They want to become the god.
Yeah. You know why they want the power? Because they feel powerless. You know why they feel powerless? Because they're disconnected from the power that is their life, that is more than adequate power for anything you will ever need to do
Mm-hmm.
and have.
Yeah. So
Right?
so we have the power. We're born with it. We're developed this with this magical intelligence, I believe, inside, and we just have to express. We have to first be, then we can do. But the being comes first, and then ultimately we
Yeah.
have the peace. We have the abundance of whatever it is in life that we want to be abundant in, whether it's love or whether it's things. Everybody's a little different, and I think that's great. That's what makes the world go round. But we first have to be and have that connection, and it
Yeah.
becomes very powerful. So I trust all of you will be doing some homework, rewinding, like I said. Get yourself an oil change, as Udo said in the last
And
interview we did, and get some Udo's oil and dive back into the show and listen to where you think you missed something, because you probably did. I know I'm going to have to go back myself today as I'm producing this and re-listen to it one more time. But I think it's just very powerful, what we can experience and express as human beings. And when you're good, you're a beacon. You're like a lighthouse for
yeah,
people that are
you
searching for you
become
versus the tugboat trying to pull people away.
you become an influence, and it's
Mm-hmm.
automatic because you cannot but express your state of being. So
Yeah.
make your state of being right, and then your expression will be right.
All right, everyone. This is Udo Erasmus. We're going to end with that, and we're going to jump into the video section just in a moment. So, Udo, I want to say thank you so much. This has been a blessing once again. I'm so grateful to have reconnected, and I know this is not going to be our last conversation, whether it's via podcast or via the phone.
Yep.
I'm really grateful to have you as part of my tribe, and I'm glad to be part of your tribe and sharing this wonderful message.
Yep. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate what you do. Getting the message out is a good message. If it's a good message, the amplifier is as important as the message. Plus you embody the message too anyway.
Yes, I plan. Listen, I practice what I
Yeah.
preach.
Yeah.
Thank you for tuning into this episode of the Human Powered Life podcast. Make sure to head over to lifestylelocker.com to check out all the details on the show and to watch part 2 of this episode, which is only in video format. We also have this audio portion in video format if you want. Once again, I'm your host, Dr. Josh Hant, for the Human Powered Life podcast, and I'm looking forward to staying connected with you as a Human Powered Life hero. Remember to join the tribe, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.